Bonjour, I am Jean-Maman.
And I am Jean-Papa.
And I am Jean-Mimi.
And I am Jean-Gigi.
We are here to read from The Littlest Voyageur by Margie Preuss, illustrated by Cheryl Pilgrim. We are reading with permission from the author and Holiday House Publishing. Jean-Pierre Petit-le-Rouge, a red squirrel, has been traveling with a crew of voyageurs. There have been many ups and downs, mostly downs, but he is finding ways to make himself useful as a hat and now helping by warning the crew when they get too close to the shore.
No sooner had the fog lifted than the old woman, the wind, picked up. She blew so wildly, she pushed the water into huge, fierce waves that splashed into the canoes and threatened to sink us all. The brigade was dégradé, forced ashore by wind and waves. One by one, the canoes entered the shelter of a small cove where the voyageurs disembarked. Jean-Louis went off to hunt seagull eggs. Jean-Henri moved some boulders around just for the fun of it. Jean-Gentil, of course, pulled out a book. Across the lake, along the horizon, lightning made jagged streaks against the sky. A few moments later, thunder roared. Jean-Gentil looked up from his book and said,
Did you know that light has a finite speed? It doesn't travel instantaneously as we have always assumed.
I never thought any such thing.
Jean-Luc said.
That's because you've never thought anything.
Jean-Michel laughed.
It says in this book that sound also has a finite speed.
Jean-Gentil went on.
Slower than light.
Lightning flashed closer now. A moment later, the deafening roar of thunder. Perhaps that explains why one sees the lightning first, and afterwards hears the thunder, I said, pointing my tail in the direction of the storm, then covering my ears with my paws. Jean-Gentil looked at me.
I wonder,
he said.
I don't know why, but Le Rouge has made me have a thought.
Again with the thoughts.
The others groaned.
Perhaps that is why we see the lightning first, and afterwards hear the thunder.
Jean-Gentil said. I beamed. My fur glowed an incandescent shade of orange.
Perhaps what the lightning and thunder is trying to tell us is that we are about to get very wet,
cried Jean-Luc. Everyone leapt and raced around, scooping up the gear. Then it and they all went under the canoes while the heavens opened up and the rain poured down. As for me, I found a hole in a tree where I could curl up nice and dry. Spiffing up at Hat Point, Lake Superior. We had been traveling for many weeks when the others began to speak of the great rendezvous. From what I gathered, this was a very important event, a big party waiting for us at our destination, the trading post at Grand Portage on Lake Superior. I learned that all the many goods we'd carried with us would be traded for other things. I couldn't wait to find out what the other things would be. Before we got to Grand Portage, the brigade stopped at Hat Point to clean the canoe and spiff themselves up. Some men trimmed their beards, some scrubbed the soot from their fingernails, and they all rubbed bear fat into their hair so it glistened. They put on their best shirts and brightest sashes and tucked big feathers in their caps. While they were spiffing themselves up, I did the same. I gave my coat a good going over, picking out all the nits and gnats. Finally, with shining faces and glistening hair and fur, we set off for Grand Portage.